some point, I went to visit my mother in North Bay Psychiatric Hospital. So they brought this poor little fragile woman that had a hard time to keep balance, and she looked like a little bit like Mother Teresa when she was older, 89 years old almost when she before she passed. We go into this room, thick walls and pretty isolated. She sits down. I looked at her. I'm impressed. I'm like, wow, what's gonna come out of her? Is she gonna say she loves me because she was never capable of never saying it? So I'm just listening, and then she'd been through therapy for so many years. She started at 16 in the psychiatric hospital. Now she was maybe in her 40s. And she said, John, she said, you know what? I'm listening. She said, I would like to ask you for forgiveness for all the things that I did to you. Can you imagine? It just blows my mind away. I was so touched. I didn't cry because most of my life I had to be the father or a therapist to my mother, listening to her and helping her to, get out of her crisis and being the savior in her own difficulty that she had as a child. I was a kind of a manager of the family, the savior. I filled up those roles, but I was so amazed. And she said, would you be able to forgive me? And I looked at her. And I stood up. She stood up. I grabbed her in my arms. I just hugged her, And I said, you know something I want you to know, Mom? I said, I forgive you with everything. You don't have to worry. And I told her that I loved her. Even though she could say it, she never said it. And I take importance to share that because it's amazing. A woman with no education. She could never go to school, She was raped herself, by a bunch of men when she was 12 years old. Attached to a tree and they raped her one by one. I heard her story, after. And no wonder, And she was just transmitted all the abuse she had to me. And she finally got healing, after all those years. And of course she passed away. She's in heaven. I'm sure she went up straight. We went to her funeral. And when the priest asked me a little bit of history about my mother, I never said anything negative. I said she was the living saint on earth after all she'd been through. And I saw she was a great mother, There's a lot of good things that I retained from her. My art, she was an artist. If she would have never... Yeah. If she would never been sick, she would have become a millionaire. She probably would have became one of the best artists there was, I remember one time she took a piece of copper. She was taking art lesson through the institution with a nail. Okay, this is with a nail. And I saw it when I was young. We didn't keep it. It was my dad sold it, I guess, for drinking or something. But she draw out of her own hand the last scene of Jesus when he has the supper with the apostle. It was just like clear and big and huge. That would have been a nail on copper that she drew the whole scenery, the Last Supper. I just freaked out. It just blew my mind out, And I knew she had an amazing talent. I remember when I was just sitting as a child, when she was at her good moment, because she did have a good moment, with the medication they were testing, to help her out. She had this pad that she would draw from the birth of Christ to the scenery on the cross. You could take the pad and flip it, and it was like a film, a video, because And I would just sit there and look there, It was just amazing. And I learned my English from her too. She was amazing through institutions. She spoke a lot of English. She was a very good singer, Favorite song is Put Your Hand in the Hand of the Man from the Galilee. you know. And I used to ask her when I had problems, you know. She wouldn't say much. She would just sit there and she wouldn't talk. She would listen, and she said, "Well, just turn it over to Jesus. He'll help you," you know. And that was her suggestion, you know. That always stood with me, you know. Always stayed with me. I kept that memory from her. That's still helping me from today, you know. I don't put any blame, you know. There's a lot of people that are suffering, you know, but they need help, they need healing. And for myself, I'm so happy that I got it, you know. And this moment that I had with my mom at the end, you know, was a cherry on the pie. Yeah, it helped me to heal when she asked me for forgiveness, you know.